selection of stocks for investment on the basis of risk and return. Today, I am going to discuss selection of stocks for investment on the basis of risk and return. In my previous video, I have discussed the return in detail, and hence today, first of all, I will discuss the concept of risk, and then I will discuss how you will invest your precious money or hard-earned money to different investment options with the help of risk and return. The formula of return I have already discussed. I am not going to repeat here it again. And this is the formula for finding out the return. That also I have discussed in my previous video. Same problem I have discussed. And this is also the problem of solving the average return, which I have already discussed. And this is the formula for calculating the average return. From here I am going to discuss, that is risk. What do you mean by risk? Risk is nothing but the variability or volatility of returns, which is measured by variance, that is standard deviation. What is the formula for finding out the variance? That is shown here. This is the formula. Where Ri means R1, R2, R3 is the return percentage, and R bar is the average return. This is the formula for the case of deterministic returns. And why it is divided by n minus 1, not n, the reason is mentioned here. Please look it. Now, I have solved here one problem with the help of the data AUL limited, which I have already discussed. In the case of return, same data is being used to find out the risk. I am again showing you the data for this. This is the data AUL limited. 10 years return individually, year wise returns are noted here, and you can compute it also. I have already shown how year wise return or any period return you will calculate. So here for 10 years data is given. Return already has been calculated earlier in my previous video. I have discussed the value is this. Again I am showing here, because return, expected return or average return is required to calculate the variance. That's why I have shown here it again. Now this formula will be applied to find out the value of risk. This is the calculation for finding out the risk. The Ri minus R bar means average return is 9.14, which I have already calculated. In this way, for every year's figure is subtracted from the average and then square it. This is the 10th year, 10 number of years figure, and divided by 10 minus by n minus 1. And the value of variance is this. You can calculate it, check it, and standard deviation is 21.83%. Higher the value of standard deviation, the risk is more. Now it is less, suppose say only 2%. That means the risk is very less. The deviation is only 2% from the average return, if it is 2%. But in this case it is 21.83%. That means your return may be deviated from the average value 21.83% higher, like that, or lower. This is the standard deviation. Now this is a case of probabilistic situation. I have already shown and discussed the expected return, this return in the case of probability. Now I am going to discuss how you will calculate the risk, that is expected risk That is the case of probabilistic situation. The formula is written here. This is the formula for finding the expected risk. Previously, I discussed the variance or risk in the case of deterministic situation, not with probabilistic. So how we'll calculate it? This is the formula R1 minus expected R1. This is the individual return and this is the expected return, and square it with the multiplication, then multiplied by probability 1. In this way, up to n years, as it is a general formula, that's why n has been used. And this is the final formula for expected risk. And if you can calculate the variance, that is the variance, then you can easily calculate the standard deviation also with the help of this formula. I have discussed it. Now, again, we have discussed the use of risk formula in the case of probability. The return we have already discussed in my previous video, that's why I am not going to repeat it or discuss again it. The expected return is 6% and variance will be calculated in this way. This is Ri minus R1 square into probability 0.25. In this way, in this case, all the probabilities are same. That's why for every multiplication, the value 0.25 has been used. But it may be different also. Whatever the value of probability concerned to the return, you have to multiply in this way. First, find out the deviation, the return value minus the expected return, and then square it, and then multiply with the probability. You see the data again. This is the data. This is individual way 18.5 minus expected return is 6. That's why 18.5 minus 6 whole square into 0.25. Then 10.5 minus 6 whole square into 0.25. In this way, you can calculate the variance in the case of probabilistic situation. And standard deviation is this is the square root of this. That means you have learned how to compute the risk and return both in deterministic and probabilistic situations. That means you have the complete idea of finding out the risk and return in quantitative form with the help of the return value. Now, why you have learned this? Now I am going to discuss for that. Investment decision. That means how will invest your money with the help of risk and return knowledge. First situation. Suppose you have computed, in front of you there are so many shares. Now you are going to select which one you will accept for your investment. Now I am taking only 2 shares for discussion. Say share A, share B. Now you know how to compute the return. Suppose you have computed the return. For share A, the return is 40%, and for share B, the return is 60%. You are also capable to find out the risk. Say the risk is 15% for this share, and for share B, the risk is 15%. Now, in which share you will invest your money? By comparing the data given for share A or share B. Here risk is same. Here risk is same for both the shares, 50%. Then what you will see? You will go for the higher return. When the risk is same, then you will go for the higher return option. That means in this case, you will select the share B for investment. Next, situation 2. Suppose after calculation you have got these values. For share A, the return is 40% and risk is 15%. And for share B, the return is 40%, but the risk is 18%. Then in which share you will invest your money? In this case, see, return is same for both the shares, but risk is different. Then which share you will accept? As the return is same, then you will go for the low risk options. In this case, for share A, the risk is less in comparison to share B, because for share B, the risk is 18%, but for share A, the risk is 15%. That means in this situation, you will select the share A for investment. Next, situation 3. I am discussing all the situations so that you can understand, and the data is given arbitrary data. First of all, you have to calculate the risk and return for all the shares or options. Then you will take decision in this way. This is a basic process. In this case, you check, you see the return is not same, risk is also not same. Then I will apply for investment. See, if you check for share A, the risk is 15%, the return is 40%. But for share B, risk is less than share A, 13%. But return is higher. The risk is less and return is higher for share B in comparison to share A. That is, definitely you will go for share B, as risk is less but return is higher in comparison to share A. That's why in this situation your decision will be to invest to the share B. Next, this is the final situation. Share A and share B. Again, the result is in mixed form. Return 40%, 60% not same. Risk 10%, 25% not same. Again, it is not such a case. Return is less, return risk is less, return is higher, as just previous case. Situation 3. Here, this is low risk, 10% with respect to 25%, and return is also less with respect to 60%. That means this is the option where risk is higher, return is also higher. But should we go for this option or not? That is a question. Then how will take it? How will take the decision? In this case, you have to find out the ratio, return divided by risk. That means you have to check the per unit risk, what is the return. You should divide by the risk, per unit risk, what is the return, and you will apply for the higher ratio. Higher ratio means per unit of risk the return is more, and this ratio is called coefficient of variance. In this case, you have to find out the coefficient of variance for both the options. Return divided by this is equal to 4, and this divided by this is equal to 2.4. As 4 is more than this, that means per unit risk the return is more. You will go for this option, which is different from your previous 3 situations. In this way, you can decide the option for investment decision. That means in which share you will invest your hard-earned or precious money. This was the basic purpose for this topic, the selection of shares by applying risk and return. Next, in my next video, I will discuss the concept of portfolio and diversification. Diversification means spreading of your investment not only to one share, more than one share, more than one asset, more than one options. You will spread your money to more than one investment option for reduction of risk. That how you do, I will discuss in my next video. Another point, what would be your expected return? That is also a very important question. Here only we are comparing the risk and return and going for the accepting the decision. But you should also know what would be your expected return considering the data available or situations of the market. Different models like CAPM model and others models I will discuss later on. I will decide your expectation of return. That's all today. Thank you.